I was in Glasgow, the East End, a few years ago, and I was speaking to a room of about 150 people. And I asked this question: can anyone summarize what life was like on this estate? And this older woman put her hand up very quickly and said, well, son, see if you want a suntan or a criminal lawyer. Fucking brilliant place to live. See if you want to buy a banana. You have to get in a bus and go 2 miles down the road. Now, this woman encapsulated for me so eloquently what the real challenge is today. And it is the impact of an unfettered market economy on so many communities. In the East End of Glasgow, today, in some parts, male life expectancy is 58, while just along the road, 10 miles only, is 81. Now, the reason for this disparity is poverty, and particularly in cities where, traditional industries have gone, that we have poverty, but poverty with a lack of hope. And that is what we've got to deal with. Now, I can't change the economy, but I am proud of Scotland putting well-being above GDP as a measure of societal success. My first idea is to let children lead the change. Now, this may sound radical, but I've worked with children on campaigns, and I know from personal experience that children bring extraordinary ideas to any challenge. They see life through neither blinkers or rose-tinted specs. They've got an uncluttered view. They are not infected by cynicism. They don't see the barriers that we see. They don't make assumptions that we make. And I'll take you to the city of Ahmedabad in India, where a teacher in Riverside School set her 7-year-olds in class the challenge of changing 1 billion lives. Did they go out and set about this with zeal? Yes, they did. The first challenge was about child labour. They were out persuading employers, pleading with them to stop employing children. Imagine the impact that would have on local employers. Then they went and they painted a zebra crossing to create the first child-friendly zebra crossing in the world. They managed to persuade the municipality to close off the city for 1 day every 2 months and give it over to children, turning it into a veritable playground. They were also out, helping older people to learn to read and write. This is spreading right across India. This whole mission, young people setting out to change 1 billion lives. That's why I believe children can bring to our health challenge some really fantastic ideas, and they will be endlessly resourceful, and their imagination knows no bounds. So children leading the change. My second idea is what I call Uplift and Learn. I remember working for a telecommunications company, and at one end of the company was a glamorous headquarters with stars, and the glitterati were there, and there were screens everywhere. At the other end, where the main employment was a series of call centres who had none of the accoutrements of the kind of glitzy environment you would expect in a major telecommunications giant. So we were tasked to change this and try and do something to reduce absenteeism and reduce turnover, and of course increase productivity. And what it took was a change of the environment, because people said they felt no part of this giant. So we changed the environment, we changed the messaging, we changed the signage, we had television screens, there were reminders almost on a daily basis of new programs that were being introduced, and it was a success story. So what we have are communities where those little details are missing. We don't have positive signage. We're surrounded by no, caution, don't, warning. I was in a school trying to get a perception of young people's view of the local authority. I turned over the local authority logo and I said, what does that say to you? This wee boy said, no ball games. Now, my idea is to bring positive signage, is to bring some colour and some messaging around our neighbourhoods. For example, painting local history on the walls like they have in schools now. Solar system I've seen in schools on a big wall. It's extraordinary, because for visual learning, it's particularly useful. but it's also stimulating, and it also, it reminds people that they belong somewhere that has significance. And, the signage can help as well. I once saw a sign in a school and it said, those who are late today, this morning, we will announce your names at lunchtime. And I thought, that is what I'm talking about. We have got obsessed with signage that tells people what not to do. We don't have very much telling them what they can do and what they should be happy about. Motivational stuff. Let's bring motivation into local communities. My third idea is one that's tried and tested in Glasgow, and it's now spreading across Scotland. And it is to move violence from purely a criminal realm to one that involves public health. Crime or violence is a public health issue. It's preventable. It's treatable. Let's treat it like an infection and do something about it. Now, I can tell you it's been an enormous shift in thinking. Callum, who I shared a stage with at a Police Scotland conference a couple of years back. Now, Callum had been both perpetrator and victim. And his last involvement was when he was stabbed 9 times in the neck one night on his doorstep with his 2-year-old son looking on. Callum was intercepted, well, not intercepted. Someone from the Violence Reduction Unit came up wearing a T-shirt. This wasn't uniformed. And he asked him a different kind of question. What would you like to say about your life, when you're gone? And he said, well, I'd want my little boy to have been proud of me. So that began a journey of total recovery and redemption. And Callum is now a solution, working with the police. They've got a social enterprise called Braveheart Industries. So they're providing employment. And Callum is going into communities, he's going into prisons, he's working with, future generations of potential offenders before they become offenders. And it's having a tremendous effect. Callum is just one of many, many young men whose lives have been turned around. Those same young men would normally perhaps spend life in and out of prison in perpetuity, because when they come out under normal circumstances, they go back to where they started. Now, has this had an impact? Well, yes, it has. The murder rate in Scotland has halved in 10 years. And violent knife crime in Glasgow came down by 62% in 10 years. So move violence and treat it as an infection that can be treated. My fourth idea is that all frontline people be trained in Disney standard communications. I can talk from personal experience here. Because I've worked with Disney in doing masterclasses in Scotland, yes. But I also remember when I was sleeping out in London in 1967, a long time ago, 60s London, cold, bedraggled, ignored, sometimes spat upon. One night I was picked up in Piccadilly Circus by a charity and taken to this hostel. Fantastic, I welcomed that, reprieve from the cold. But when I arrived there, the first thing that happened to me was I was told to take my clothes off and a hose was pointed at me. And I felt that small, I felt diminished. And I escaped back into the streets because I had some more dignity there. And, that taught me something at that very moment, that thousands of interactions take place every day. And people who are vulnerable, people who lack confidence, people who are down on their luck will meet a barrage of complexity. And we need to simplify that process. We need to give people those skills to turn every call into a positive outcome so that people don't get sent in a spaghetti of routes. People don't have to fill out forms. They're not asked ridiculous questions. And imagine the turnaround that could have, because every time, listen, I've known someone who has phoned for help in the morning and committed suicide in the afternoon. That can never be allowed to happen. And this crushes people. It diminishes them. What they want more than anything else is to feel valued and significant. So let's give this super training. And by the way, the rise in human capital that would create for those people would be extraordinary. Remember, those are often people in the lowest paid jobs. So that's my fourth idea. My fifth one is one that should be obvious, but it clearly isn't. And that is to bring into those neighborhoods where poverty is pervasive, fun, color, and sensory experience. I've worked in housing, and I know things are a lot better now, but I still think that when people step out the front door, they should be met with something that inspires them, you know, an enriching environment. They need to see, you know, bench seating, they need to see trees, they need to see, you know, flowers. We need to reclaim some of the parking spaces and turn them into bench seating with, you know, planters. Simple things. Let's do it. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So just in summary, because I know I've been racing through this at a pace. Children leading the change. I want to create a new generation of movers and shakers. I've done it with children, and they are fantastic at coming up with solutions that we couldn't even find out questions for. Lift and learn, make learning ubiquitous and bringing motivation into our local communities. This is an example of the kind of thing that's been done in schools. Let's bring it into our communities and into our hospitals. Violence as a public health issue, view it as an infection and treat it. Violence is preventable, not inevitable. Frontline people as super communicators, let's give them Disney-style training, and let's improve that interface so that people are always uplifted and get a positive outcome. Disney does it better than anyone else. No question. This is an example of what can happen as a result. This is a firm of window cleaners cleaning a children's hospital window. The impact of that on the children when they dressed up as superheroes, can you just imagine? Fantastic. Fun, beauty, and sensory experience in neighborhoods. Gentrification without displacement. Simple things to the absolutely sublime. This is a wall in Dresden, and when it rains, it plays music. I rest my case. Thank you very much. This is Mike Stevenson from Edinburgh. Thank you.